Newcastle 4, Ipswich 0. Back-to-back 4-0 wins for Newcastle in the Premier League. And I know people will say it's Leicester, it's Ipswich. But Leicester and Southampton, yes, they have been battered this season. But Ipswich have been one of those teams that have played a little bit better than where they are in the league. And they haven't been rolled over by teams they probably deserve to beat. Villa, they did well against Manchester United. But Newcastle went to their place and absolutely obliterated them. Isak could have scored a 1v1. I think a goal was ruled at the end for offside. It was a very dominant display from Newcastle United. And what I've picked out about Newcastle United lately, since that Liverpool game, the last 5-6 games, is they're scoring goals, but they look better going forward. They look more creative. Eddie Howe's gone back to basics with some of his tactics. There's obviously belief and confidence in there that makes a whole load of difference. But you've got attacking left back and Lewis Hall. Fabian Schär is going to help and just build up and control the game. But Tonali coming in and being able to deal with transitions and covering space and giving Bruno G the license to be an 8, his natural role where his aggression, high pressing and creativity can thrive, with Lewis Hall providing, an attacking dynamic on the left, and now Isak and Gordon firing, and Jacob Murphy these last few games playing fantastic. It's all sort of coming together for Newcastle, and they're currently 7th in the Premier League, and if they win a third game in a row, they go on to 29 points, and that would be over Villa. They would potentially go into 5th, which is looking at 5th would be like Champions League if people do well in the European competitions or Europa League. Newcastle very much pushing and knocking on the door to Europe. They started the season well, but weren't at their best, but getting points. Then they had a drop off where it wasn't looking good. There was pressure on Eddie Howe, but I had to say Eddie Howe got no backing in the summer whatsoever. And they sort of, now they're winning games, but they're looking good and they're looking convincing winning games. Obviously, they lost to Brentford 4-2, but their attack is firing. There's something working there. 3 goals versus Newcastle. They got good results versus obviously Tottenham earlier in the season, Manchester City, Arsenal. They can take on the big teams. 4-0 over Leicester, 3-1 over Brentford in the Cup, 4-0 over Ipswich. It seems to be clicking and they seem to be scoring. And look, they could go to Aston Villa, lose that game, of course. But I do fancy Newcastle against the big sides. But I think Newcastle have something there. And I think, they didn't bring anyone in the summer. There's January there to see what they could do. I think they'll talk for Newcastle be right wing and centre back, but obviously Murphy's been fantastic. But I think just with Almiron leaving, you look at sort of Mbeumo would be an incredible signing for Newcastle, but I don't know if you'd be able to get him. It's a shame you don't have Minter as an option. Elliot Anderson, imagine an Elliot Anderson, Tonali, Bruno G as midfield 3. I feel, PSR did not do you any favours there. And then obviously just a long-term centre-back, because Botman and Schär is probably the long-term pairing. Burns done well since he stepped in, but Schär with his age, they need a long-term centre-back. But there's definitely something there at Newcastle when everybody's fit and when they're in form and when they're ticking. And I think Tonali and Lewis Hall, who were signed last year, but we've only really seen them properly playing this year, it's probably an explanation behind the drop-off last year that none of their new signings really could cement themselves into the team. But this year, 2 of them are, and are 2 of the best players and 2 of the first names on the team sheet. But I feel like Newcastle will tick, and I feel like it's there. And Tonali was the standout for me. And honestly, absolute joke today. His ability to just defend large spaces. Ipswich are one of the most energetic sides. They like to get you on their transition. But there's an ability to cover ground, cut out passing lanes, his awareness, and it will just free up Bruno G so he can be that creative 8. But he was disrupting the attacks. He was stopping the transition. His physical dominance, his duel winning, his ground coverage, pushing people off the ball was absolutely unbelievable. He can read the game well. He's very good on the ball, very good, like having the ball all angles, being used in build up, receiving between the lines, turning with the ball, uses his body again to protect the ball, very good at protecting the space. And then on top of that, he can press high, he's got the work rate, he's got the technical attributes. And for an elite player in football, they need an IQ, they need the work rate, and they need the technical abilities, and they need the physical abilities. And Tonali seems to have all of that. And now Bruno G is playing as an 8. He's looked unbelievable, like being creative, showing aggression. It's been fantastic. Newcastle, and I think that control and dominance in midfield is one of the reasons they look better, because Isak's been a lot better, Gordon's been a lot better, Murphy's been a lot better, but they're creating chances because they've got such control of the middle of the park that they're playing free-flowing football that's fast, and it's creating chances, and it's opened up opposition. And Tonali's ability to just cover ground dealt with the Ipswich intensity so well. And I always say I fancy Newcastle more than any other side against the big teams because they've got that mobility. They've got players that can run. And my biggest criticism of Man United is the lack of players that can run. Man City are falling off because Gundogan's 34. He hasn't got the legs. Having players that can run in the middle of the park generally makes such a difference in the Premier League. That's why Agate is probably United's most key player, because he can run. And that's why I think City have fallen off. And I think Tonali, he can run. Newcastle can run. Obviously, they've got other workhorses like Longstaff as well. But Tonali is someone that can do what Longstaff does off the ball, but he has those qualities on the ball that Longstaff just does not have. Now, my general thoughts on Newcastle was this. I thought it wasn't just a good win, but it was an excellent win from Newcastle. They were in control. They were confident. I think a few wins, I think a few results, I think a few goals. Newcastle were playing with confidence. It was free-flowing football. They were taking risks. There was patterns on the ball. The players were running, eager to get on the ball, make things happen. There was confidence there. And Eddie Howe's done well after that blip to reinstall that confidence. And everybody looked quite happy. Obviously, the midfield partnership we've spoken about. But Murphy's been absolutely fantastic. Even the back heel there, unbelievable play from him. Isak getting a hat-trick, I believe his first hat-trick as well, taking chances, probably could have had 4. I'm so glad I subbed Isak into my FPL team, but I'm annoying that I put Ola Aina on the bench for Rico Lewis. So I've lost 13 points there. But then Lewis Hall again, fantastic. Just been consistent this season. Lewis Hall and Shah are 2 players in the Newcastle backline that are good, that are comfortable on the ball. And as I said, Ipswich caused United and Villa issues. They've not Southampton and Leicester where people have just ran them over. So I think, obviously they are probably going to get relegated, but you've got to think of it in that sense of what a job that's been done by, of course, Newcastle today. And I think Eddie Howe made some adjustments. It was a basic lineup. It was a strong lineup. I think he's managing it well. He's going back to basics. And I think Newcastle were very highly organised off the ball. They were covering ground. They were winning their duels. They were very well structured off the ball. The confidence, they were moving the ball well on the ball, but the pressing was here and the team just looked confident. And I think Eddie Howe got his tactics spot on today. And I think I felt for Eddie Howe because he was getting criticism earlier in the season, which is fine. People were turning on him, but I felt that he got no backing in the summer. All of his signings from the summer before hadn't really cemented themselves. And I felt that, what more can he do in a difficult league with the injuries, with the lack of, signings? But when the players are available and fit, you can see what Eddie Howe does do. Now, Isak, I think, has to be man of the match. You could argue Murphy. Murphy didn't get a hat-trick, but Jacob Murphy was unbelievable today. But I think Isak has to be man of the match because you look at this here. 9 touches in the opposition's box, 5 shots. 5 shots on target, 3 big chances, 3 goals, 2 chances created. He's not only a striker that can score goals. He can score tap-ins, he can score worldies, he can create chances. He can dribble with the ball, he can go out wide, he can play in the middle, he can play across the front 3, he can carry the ball, he can link up play, he can drop deep, he can press, he can score, his movement is better, he's getting on the end of tap-ins, he can score unbelievable worldie shots like he did versus Liverpool. He is a top player, Alexander Isak. His ability to dribble and run with the ball, his ability at everything, getting the ball and shooting, created 2 chances today, had the 3 big chances. When you create the chances for Isak, he'll score. I think maybe one of the one-on-ones he could have potentially scored, but he was unbelievable today. And this season, in 22 games, he has 20 goals and assists for club and countries, 15 goals, 5 assists, and I think he did get off to a slow start. He's been absolutely unreal lately, the last few games. And I think, once Newcastle were flowing and playing better football and giving him service and giving him chances to work with, you can see that mass improvement. And as I said, 14 goal contributions in the Premier League this season. Only Saka, Salah and Palmer have more goal contributions than Isak this season. Absolutely delivering in style with 14 goal contributions already, which is unbelievable return. And thank you for the FPL points very much, Isak. Another player I want to talk about at Newcastle is Lewis Hall. This is Data MP, one of my favourite sites to use to look at data. And no Premier League fullback has made more progressive passes than Lewis Hall this season. Lewis Hall's ability and build-up to play the ball out the pitch, to get the ball out the pitch, get the ball moving is such an unbelievable asset. He is so technically good on the ball, so comfortable. He can progress via carry, he can press via pass, he can break the lines, he gets it ticking for Newcastle, he moves the ball around quickly. He's first for forward passes, first for progressive passes, first for block shots, first for crosses, and first for through passes. He is an attacking fullback that's put the most crosses in, through passes in, that is getting Newcastle forward, and he's now bringing that element of creativity from the left flank that I think Trippier in the season that you finished in the Champions League really brought from the right flank. You need a fullback that's going to bring that. He's bringing the aerial duels, the interception, the passing, expected assists, he's third. But what I've noticed about Lewis Hall is he's so much better defensively, improved there, but his eagerness to get forward, pass forward. Third for expected assists out of all the fullbacks in the Premier League, not just left backs, fullbacks. First for forward passes. Second for interceptions, first for through passes. His ability on the ball and to get forward is fantastic. And I said with Lewis Hall, he's a top attacking left back. He has the versatility to invert, play in midfield if needed, or overlap and effectively run down the flank, which is how he's mostly being used. contributes significantly in the final third. You know, could have more assists this season, bring in an attacking threat. I think him and Gordon are understanding relationship, the overlaps, the underlaps, the movement is working well. As I said, he's technically secure. He's very good in build up, tight spaces, receive the ball, two-footed, and I think he just provides value in every phase of the pitch, in the final third and crossing, in the middle third and progression, at the beginning and build up and receiving the ball. I think he's a fantastic player. The other player I want to give a shout out to, I don't want to make this video too long because the Arsenal game is going to kick off in 5 minutes, is Jacob Murphy. I thought he was exceptional today, and I think he's been really good in recent games. I think his pressing, his work rate, his everything is relentless, but he's been doing well in 1v1 situations. He's been playing good passes. He's been linking up well. I still think Newcastle will need a long-term right winger. Murphy will be on the bench. Almiron will go. But he made a massive impact today. He could have had man and match performance. The little back kills, the movement, the energy, the determination to win the ball. Jacob Murphy was proper impressive today. And I think Murphy, Gordon, Isak have been great. Players like Bruno G and Tonali are working well. You've got obviously lots of other positives like Lewis Hall as well at left back. And I think Newcastle have some really good players. They have a really good side. I've said this about Newcastle. I think you guys have an unbelievably talented side with so many good players. And if you can hold on to them and get that investment in, you being 7th, I think you can still have a really, really good season, because I'm someone that rates Eddie Howe highly. And if you've been following my channel, you'll know that. Newcastle fans, let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. Please do go ahead and hit that like button. See you next time. Bye.